Hollywood in 2023 has been very good at having people not go see their movies. Now, in the last month of the year, December of course, Godzilla -1 has arrived, stomping and trudging its way into the theaters. The question now is, if the West can't make movies, can anyone else? And is Godzilla -1 truly worth going to see? Today we're going to talk about one of the strangest box office weekends you'll ever see right now on the wdwpro channel. Hello folks, welcome back again. It is a joy to have you, and we're excited to have some time to spend together to break down entertainment, explain it, and keep you ahead of the culture curve. Helping us do so is Lou Wasserman's Ghost, a fan favorite of the channel. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Absolutely, and we will read this very first article by Anthony D'Alessandro out of Deadline. Early December box office feeling halo from Renaissance, a film by Beyonce with 20 to 25 million opening, 99% positive audience exits. But there's something very fascinating in this article, and yes, this is a review video of Godzilla, but I want to show this to everyone out there very quickly. First of all, we'll have the link to this article in the video description, so go read it, the full thing if you're interested. 20 to 25 million is what is anticipated for Beyonce. Will there be now a battle of the Beyonce lovers versus the Swifties? As Taylor Swift clearly did better than that. Who knows? We don't care necessarily too much on this channel, although if it breaks out, maybe we'll cover it. Who knows? The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is expected to be at second place with 14.8 million. And then in third is Toho International's Godzilla -1 with an estimated $5 million. Let's see, including previews at 2,308 theaters and a 10 to 11 million opening. So that was a little confusing how it played out in the article. But 5 million is the opening day, and then 10 to 11 million is the anticipated total for the entire weekend. Now, Lou, what the interesting thing to me is here is that some might say, well, Godzilla -1 then is third place, who cares? This is a film that is fully subtitled. It is totally in Japanese, and I think that clearly in the American market, at least at the American box office, that's a hard sell. And yet, this is a film that's going to land in third place. I think there's some good reasons for it doing so well. But do you think it might overshoot those projections at all?
I do think it will. Although, you and I both saw the movie last night at two different places in the same city, and you said you were avoiding where I was going, which was downtown, because worried about crowds. The theater was maybe a little better than half full was all last night, so I don't know. But everybody came out loving it, and there was applause at the end, and not just from me, so there you go.
Well, let's get into the review then, because I'm going to make a bold statement here, and that is that this movie, I think, is the best Godzilla movie of all time. I think it is a must-watch movie if you have any interest in movies. I think this is must-watch, and I would dare say that I struggle to think of a way that you could make a better Godzilla movie. I think that this is just about as good as you could do, and the comparison that I'll make here is that there are times when writers and directors are given a task to work with an intellectual property that is not necessarily well-suited for a serious film, and yet they manage to make it so. So the best comparison I can think of for Godzilla -1 is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that Jim Henson worked on, and that film took a very absurd, idea of mutant ninja turtles living in the sewer being trained by a rat, and it took it very seriously. And to this day, I think it's one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. It's definitely a cult classic. That said, I think that Godzilla -1 is a better movie than the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which is really saying something.
And that's a harder mark to hit, mainly because Godzilla comes with all this baggage of all the other movies, going back to the very first one. And that's the point. Frankly, this is not necessarily the kind of movie I'd rush out to see to make sure I'd probably get to it eventually. But when our colleague, Culture Casino, gave such a rave review the other day, he said, this is not just a rubber monster movie. And I think that's the important point to make. It has human values. It has pathos. It has triumph. It has heroism. It has romance. It's a great movie as excuse me, as a movie, let alone as a monster movie.
Well, Lou, what I would say too is, to discuss the human aspect of this, we saw emotions in this that we no longer see at movies for whatever reason. And this took me aback because we saw someone suffering from real mental anguish, grief, and we saw those real emotions on full display. We saw it from multiple actors. You don't expect that in a Godzilla movie, right? To run the gamut of human emotives.
Real friendship.
Yes.
Real, not, hey, we're all superheroes, so I guess we're in the same club and we'll be friends for the next 90 minutes or 2 hours or 3 hours or however long they want to make them. This was real stuff. This is real people. And that's, by the way, before we go much further, there is one caveat I feel we have to offer people, and that is this. Last night, I'm sitting in the lobby waiting for the show to open up, and I'm talking with a nice guy, and he's got probably a 7 or 8 year old little girl with him. Many people will wonder, is this too scary for my kids? I don't think it is. It's pretty intense in places. But what it is something that needs a little bit of background and history knowledge to fully appreciate. I think if you're taking your kids to this, and God knows history teaching is pretty weak, unfortunately, nowadays in our systems, you got to explain to them about what kamikazes were and what happened at the end of World War II in Japan, because that's a lot of what is going on with the main character in this movie. And if you don't appreciate that, you won't really get it to the degree that you do if you know the story, backstory.
Correct. And I thought one of the most fascinating parts of that was that from the Western perspective, the use of pilots to fly into structures is insane. And in this movie, the way it's projected when he returns and is ridiculed and shamed and outcast because he did not fly his plane into a mission. It's hard to even talk about that on YouTube, even though we're talking about a work of fiction. But the way that was presented was that the people who had lost everything then blamed him and said, our children had to die instead of you because you were too cowardly to do what you needed to help win. It was people like you that did this. And I thought, wow, that is a fascinating way to look at this.
And his guilt is palpable and part of their culture. And the other thing is, at the end, when everybody gets together to solve the problem that is Godzilla, it's about, we gave our lives and sacrificed for a false cause in World War II. At last, we can do something we can truly not just be proud of while we're doing it and caught up in the fervor, but afterwards, win, lose, or draw, we can say we fought for something valuable.
Lou, I thought the relationship between Japan and the United States was handled wonderfully.
There's a wonderful aspect to this, because the obvious question is, Japan is a beaten country. Here's this monster. Why doesn't the United States Navy, which is there with all kinds of ships in occupied Japan after World War II, why didn't we send a couple of battleships out after? And what they propose is that the U.S. says basically you're on your own, because if we do a lot of military stuff now, it will exacerbate our already tenuous relationship with the Soviets. And they even have a clip of Douglas MacArthur, who was, of course, the head of the occupation of Japan, in a newsreel, and mentioned that the U.S. said, sorry, we'll give you a couple of your old ships to fight it with, but we can't get involved because it'll make the Russians mad.
I thought, Lou, and folks, you're going to be reading subtitles, and I'm going to say, get over it. You need to go watch this movie.
Yeah.
But the acting is phenomenal. And there's one actor in particular who's part of the group of friends who he reminded me of Kramer, right? Of Michael Richards. And Lou, I'm assuming you probably know who I'm talking about. I love that guy. And I love the way the movie wrapped up at the end, the full redemption arc for so many. Everything about this movie I was very pleased with. It's not perfect, but it's pretty darn close. And when you consider what it's working with, it's all the more amazing, right? This won't sit atop the pantheon of greatest movies of all time. But if you were given the task of making a Godzilla movie, I challenge anyone to make anything better than what we had, and it was a tour de force of writing.
And you can't just have airplanes and guns against giant monster that spits fire. I mean,
Right.
basically, if you did that for 90 minutes, let alone 2 hours, people would get bored, although they wouldn't admit it, after 30. And you can't just have a bigger explosion and a bigger thing. Some of this, if you really stepped outside and looked at it, is kind of silly. The science behind their plan, and I'm not going to spoil anything for people, to go after Godzilla is pretty iffy at the best.
Yes.
But they make it work. They make
That's right.
it work.
Because it's played seriously.
They take it seriously, so you do. And as much as I love movies that are kind of kidding on the square and doing basically asides to the audience, like, for example, Deadpool stuff, a bunch of people taking something deadly serious makes you believe in the seriousness of it too, even though you have to suspend your disbelief when you see this thing coming out of the ocean and glowing blue with its radioactiveness. So,
So you talked about something that did not work for the movie. I'll say what I think did not work. Towards the end, there's sort of the Han Solo moment where
right.
your friends come to save you, and that felt just a little too convenient, especially if you spend just more than a second thinking about, oh wait, how far can you see out across the ocean? That said, I understand why they did the moment, and it is powerful if you don't think about it. But if you think about it,
I kind of smelled it coming. If it's what I'm thinking, you're
yes,
thinking.
yes.
But
And then,
and practically speaking, when those ships are all sitting in harbor and hey, it's coming, let's go. It takes longer than that to get a ship where they had to get to in a hurry. So there's all kinds of little stuff like that. So
the other thing, Lou, is, well, thank goodness they all brought tugboats for this very specific moment.
And we're instantly able to tie on the lines and pull like crazy. So
yes.
Well,
So
this may sound weird to somebody who hadn't seen the movie, but when you see it, and you should, you'll get it. But don't let it take you out of what's going on, because it's, anything that's on this subject, and I take it like it's a real subject, and it isn't. And really, the movie is not about Godzilla. It's about humanity. It's about people.
That's
but
right.
anything with this, with the name Godzilla in the title, starts off by saying, hey, everybody, we're going to do something really ridiculous and really out there and really totally unreal, but play along with us and you'll have a good time. And that's the ground rules of the game, And within those, wow, do they have a good time. And wow, do we have a good time riding along with them.
I've got two other very minor critiques. Again, folks, we're talking about, you heard the level that I praised this film at the beginning, so these are small critiques. I thought at the end that there was a little, I'm trying to think how to say this without spoiling the movie for folks. A former enemy, a former person of great strife, throws an assist to our main protagonist.
Yeah.
And I thought it would have been better if that had been a secret, and the red lever or the red pulley was secretly the way that he was going to save his life, but that guy didn't know it until the end. I thought that would have been better.
And that's what I was expecting he was going to show him, not that other thing.
Right.
I thought that's what he was going to say.
Right. The bomb safety should have been the get out of jail free card. That's what that should have been, and it should not have been said to the hero, which would have been fully redemptive, because then as he's coming down in the parachute, he would have known that he had been forgiven.
And
that would have been
especially
better.
Because they then had to have the flashback of him showing the other lever that actually activated the,
Yes. So a highly emotional close-up while he's coming down with the parachute and realizing that he had been forgiven, that would have been more powerful. That said, the only other critique I have of this film, Lou, is I think it's maybe 10, 15 minutes too long, but I don't know where I would have cut down from. You have any idea where that would have been eliminated?
Well,
maybe towards the beginning there was extra padding?
I'm thinking all of the stuff showing everybody surviving the post-war period could have been shorter, but if it was, it wouldn't have the impact.
I agree.
And the way it introduces the characters of the lady next door and the kid and all of that just plain works. I think that scene where they bring everybody into the big meeting room to explain the plan and get them all excited, some of that maybe was a little bit long.
Yes, but maybe a minute less there. But it's a fascinating thing to look at a movie and say, it needs to be shorter, but I don't know where you can cut it, because it's so well crafted. So kudos to everybody who was involved in this. Lou, it's time to give a score, though. if you had to give a score, and you use whatever scale you want. I don't know what kind of scales ghosts use,
I
but
don't know either. Give me
I usually do a 0 to 10 scale, with 0 being
okay,
the absolute worst thing you've
okay.
ever seen in your life, and 10 is, perfection.
I'm going to give it about an 8.5 going on 9. I really am. It was really, really that good.
I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10, and I'm going to go even further and say that I think it's the best movie of the year. I previously, this has been a rough year for movies. I'll just say that it's been a
Oh, yeah.
good grief. The Equalizer 3 with Denzel Washington. I had very much enjoyed that film. I thought it was excellent. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was nice. I'm not the right market for Barbie, but if you were into Barbie, I think that was a well-crafted movie for people who like Barbie and who want to take down the Kens of the world. That's not my thing, but I can appreciate something that is not up my alley. When it comes to Godzilla, folks, I'm here to tell you, I think it's the best movie of the year. Luke, is there anything else you can think of that was better than Godzilla?
In a totally different genre, yeah, absolutely. But it's a streamer that is also up for awards because it's one of these things where they put it in the theater for a minute or two.
Yes, I'm talking about wide release box office.
No, because all of the two that I would mention are both on video on streaming, not in theaters.
Right, and I think that's
Although
a larger category, but definitely worth a conversation as we get closer to the end of the year about
well, just
overall.
for the heck
Yeah.
of it, so people go see them. They're both on Amazon, and one is called The Burial with Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones, and it is an Oscar-worthy, brilliant movie that in any other era would have been that year's, I don't know, Good Will Hunting or any serious but charming. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. And the other one, interestingly, that I just saw recently is a Japanese movie, sort of about this same period without the monster, and it's called The Great War of Archimedes, and it's on Amazon, and it's about it starts with a famous event in World War II, which is when we sunk the Yamato, the biggest battleship in the history of battleships, bigger than the Bismarck. And then it goes back to how did that get built, and you realize it's not really about that. And it's this whole controversy going on within the Japanese military between Admiral Yamamoto, who wants carriers, and the old-time battle wagon admirals who want battle wagons. And he gets this mathematician, this brilliant young mathematician who isn't in the military, and says, I want you to figure out the numbers so we can prove that their claim of what it's going to cost to build this big battleship is way off the mark and that they're screwing us. And you wouldn't think a movie about math and about pre-war, post-war, because it takes place in the 30s, it's before the war. But boy, does it get interesting and change around. And the special effects and things are the equal of this movie. The Japanese have gotten awfully darn good at recreating these naval battles, of course. And that's the other thing to mention about Godzilla. In fact, Culture Casino mentioned that they gave it kind of a film look to all of this digital
Yes, there's
stuff.
a grittiness.
It has a taste of reality to it, especially not just the battle scenes, but the scenes of Japan and the squalor of the post-war world there, where everybody was starving and broke and trying to put their lives back together. I'm telling you, folks, there's a lot more to this than rubber monsters. A lot more. And yet, Godzilla is a character. And even though obviously he doesn't speak dialogue and he doesn't explain to you his inner motivations or any of the stuff we have to sit through in a lot of these streaming epics where there's 10 episodes, of which 4 episodes maybe are action and the rest is everybody navel gazing and giving you their philosophy of life. Godzilla can't do that. But because he is just this relentless thing that isn't going to be talked out of destroying Tokyo and isn't going to be talked out of killing people and isn't going to be talked out of anything, he becomes a real protagonist and villain at the same time in the show. I know there's probably a lot of people out there listening to this thinking, "Oh, come on, guys, it
No,
can't be that good,"
it's
but
that
it
good.
really can, and it really, really is.
I think Godzilla is the representation of all of the fears of Japan that they need to overcome in the face of utter defeat. He is the lurking thing in the dark abyss who comes up and destroys your city with tremendous force, unrelenting power, even harnessing the power of the atom in the way that they had just experienced. Godzilla is a fantastic film, folks. I cannot recommend it highly enough. And I guess my conclusion, Lou, is that if Hollywood cannot provide to us on a steady basis great content, so be it. We'll send it out to the other countries and let them do what we once did. Lou, final thoughts?
Well, a lot of those countries have been doing it. We just never saw it. But maybe things like this absence of content on our screens because of the strikes will leave some holes where pictures that never would have gotten distributed in this country will start to, and that'll be a good thing.
So, folks, get out there and watch Godzilla. We don't normally advocate for you to make a consumer decision, but in this case, if you want good movies, this is the only way. The only way to tell Hollywood what it is you want is to vote positively when we get positively good stuff. Godzilla is that stuff. It is fantastic. Highly recommend. Folks, if you highly recommend this video, click the like button, share, subscribe, and when you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. Have you seen Godzilla? Did you enjoy it as much? Or do you take a counter position? And don't forget that we're having a 50K celebration Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time to 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a live stream right here on the channel where we will be announcing new member rewards and a new time slot for the Pro Show going forward. You do not want to miss it. Folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
This is Wilton the Troll reporting for That's Park Place, and I'm surrounded by loving and adoring people who are peacefully trying to make sure that poor kids aren't cold in the winter. And just behind me, you can see a totally natural bonfire for baking cookies or making marshmallows.
Yeah, so, Wilson, we're really appreciate the effort and stuff, but we're looking for real and, accurate news reporting on that Park Place.
So not like most news outlets, huh?
No.